Hello, welcome to today's Bright Ideas webinar. This session is all about evaluation in Brightspace. This is part 4 of our assessment mini-series. Thanks for joining us. Before we get started on the agenda, just wanted to let you know of a few housekeeping items. So please use the Zoom Q&A box for any questions that you have throughout today's session. We'll also have a designated time at the end for questions. A recording of the session will be posted in our Bright Ideas Brightspace tutorials channel, and we'll also share the slide deck, which contains additional resources and a copy of the Q&A from today's session for your reference via email following the session. So let's kick things off with our agenda. First, we'll start with some quick introductions, and then from there, we'll discuss some tools in Brightspace that you can use to evaluate learners. I will show you how to use those tools through a demonstration, and then we'll have time at the end for discussion and questions. My name is Renata, and I am a Customer Enablement Manager at D2L. Joining me is my colleague Victoria, who will be supporting with answering questions in the Q&A. Let's take a moment to clarify some terms. D2L is the company, Brightspace is our product, a learning management system, and the Brightspace community is D2L's free online website where members can find great teaching and learning information, share best practices, and connect with other professionals using Brightspace. The higher education faculty group is a great place to do that, and the link will be in the chat for you to join that higher education faculty group. So here's a list of Brightspace tools that can help you as you evaluate your learners, provide feedback, and monitor their progress. In part 2 of the mini-series, in part 3 of our mini-series, we explored Quick Eval, the evaluations tool, and how to provide really engaging feedback via audio and video note tools. We also saw that those evaluation experiences were consistent. So once you learn how to assess an assignment, you can also assess a discussion or a quiz. And this was very intentional to provide a really streamlined and consistent user experience. Today, we will be exploring 3 tools: Rubrics, Gradebook, including master review of the gradebook, and then finally class progress. So let's kick things off with rubrics. So let me tell you a couple of reasons why rubrics are so awesome. So first off, providing clearly defined criteria and performance levels really helps learners understand how their work is going to be evaluated. So this reduces ambiguity and supports self-assessment for learners. Secondly, learners can get feedback that's not only timely, but personalized because you have the ability to include multimedia elements, including video note, which helps them understand their strengths and areas for improvement right away. By standardizing evaluation criteria, rubrics promote fairness and consistency in grading across sections and evaluators. When rubrics are aligned to assignments, discussions, and written response quiz questions, instructors can simply select the rubric level that matches the learner's performance, and that score can automatically feed to the grades tool if you have associated a grade item to that assessment. And then finally, rubrics can be created at the course level and easily shared amongst faculty. So they can also be created at the organizational level and then shared down, which is great for consistency if you wanted to have a shared rubric amongst a department, for example. So we're going to now jump into the environment so I can show you an overview of rubrics so you can understand how to create and edit one, how to actually attach a rubric to an assessment, and then how to actually assess it. So let's jump in. I am signed in as Regina Davis here, which is the instructor of our Intro to Business course. And I am in the rubrics tool of my course. Now I got here by going through my course admin. And if you don't have rubrics in your navigation bar already, you can find all of your tools within the course admin area. So what we can see here is a list of the rubrics that we already have created in the course. And we can see a list here displayed. So beside the name of the rubric, we can see a description if you've added one. This is really helpful just for a quick glance to understand what the purpose of each rubric is. We can see the scoring method. So how the rubric's being graded. Is it going to have no score? Is it points? Is it custom points? And then finally, the status. So we can have a draft status, which means a rubric is still being created or in progress. And then published means that the rubric is actually visible to the learners in your course. And finally, we don't see it here, but you can also have an archived rubric, which is a rubric that's no longer visible, but saved in Brightspace for you to view. You might notice some of these locks beside these rubrics, and that means that these rubrics have already been used to assess learners' work already. And so in this case, it's only possible to edit the text fields in these rubrics. You won't be able to actually edit the number of criteria or achievement levels, as this would affect the academic integrity of the rubric already in use. So if you did want to make edits to that rubric, you would have to just make a copy of it, which is very simple to do. You would just click that drop down and click copy, and then you could actually create a new version and edit that one. And in this final column here, we have type. So there are two different types of rubrics you can create in Brightspace. There's analytic rubrics and there's holistic rubrics. So let's take a look at the analytic rubric first. These rubrics allow you to assess learners' achievements based on multiple criteria within a single rubric. And this is the most common that we see here. So I'm just going to go to this financing a business, and I can really, click on this preview option. This is going to show me how the rubric will appear to my learners. So let's take a look at it. So this is a points-based rubric. We can see the points over here at the top and that final criterion score at the bottom here. But you can also choose to have a no score or no point values. You can also have custom points, which we'll look at in a moment. The levels of achievement display in the columns. So here we can see excellent, good, satisfactory, needs improvement, and so on. And then the assessment criteria is displayed in the rows. So we have the rows here that are explaining what does that actually look like to achieve those certain levels. And you might notice these target icons here too. This means that outcomes or standards from the course have been attached to a particular criterion in that rubric. So that's what those symbols mean here. Now let's look at a holistic rubric. Now these are one-dimensional rubrics with just one single criterion. So if we look at this in-class rubric, and let's just preview this one, we can see that we just have that single criterion that's being assessed here, and we have that descriptor in here. So a little bit different than that analytic rubric that we saw before. So let's look at how simple it is to actually create a rubric. So I'm going to jump into a rubric that I've already started, and let's make some edits to it. So I'm going to go to this assignment proposal and click on the edit option here. So I've got some information about my rubric at the top. I know that this is an analytic rubric. It's a custom points rubric here. And I can go in and I can make changes to this rubric because it has not been assessed. It hasn't been used to assess a learner yet, so I'm able to make some changes to it. So the default, once you create a points-based rubric, is for it to score 4, 3, 2, 1 here. But I can change this and I can make it custom point. So I'm going to just scroll down and make some changes here. I'm going to change this rationale for choosing a topic. I actually want this to be out of 8. So right away, you can see that each of those criterions have automatically been updated if I change that. And here that you can see that here. And then if we scroll down to the bottom, we can see that total has been changed. So now it's out of 24 versus before. If I want to actually add a new criterion, I can just simply click this, and then I'm ready to go ahead and add a new criterion here if I want to. And if I want to get rid of that, I can just delete it very simply. If you had a criterion that you just wanted to copy and make some quick edits to, you can actually copy that row. So that's a really handy trick if you have something similar for your next criterion. You don't want to rewrite everything. You can also add a criteria group here if you want to, and that's just going to create a new section within the rubric where you can add specific criteria and levels related to that group. At the top here, you can also, if you wanted another level here, you can add a new level after here. This needs improvement if you wanted to, and of course you can customize the names of all of these up at the top here. So you might notice that I have some text in my rubric here, and I want to point out something really special about the rubric tool is that you have the option to add in this initial feedback. And what's going to happen here is if I click in here and I add something, as soon as I've provided that whatever level for that learner, they're going to automatically get that initial feedback right away. So they're able to get that feedback very timely, and this will inform their next steps right away. And so let me just scroll down to show you where I have that already here. In this annotated bibliography piece, I've actually added in some next steps here, and I've used the Brightspace editor, and I'm just going to make it bigger here. You'll notice that you have full functionality of the Brightspace editor, which is what you'll see when you create content throughout Brightspace. And what we've done here is I've actually used the quick link option to add in this article. So if I go over here, I'll show you how that works because I don't have it linked here. And what I'll do is select this option here, and then I can go over here to insert quick link. And I'm going to be able to just select this link, and I can add in any link that I want. Whoops. And in this situation, I have my link ready. I'm just gonna copy it in here. And I'm going to choose if I want it to open up in a new window. In this case, yes, I'll insert that, and here we are. Now, this doesn't need to be just for external links. You could actually link the learner straight to course content that you wanted them to review right within this initial feedback. And the way that you would do that is the same way by doing insert quick link. And instead, you could select content, and then you could actually filter through and decide, oh, I want to lead them to this topic here, and you could embed that right within the initial feedback. So a really handy tool to be able to give learners the feedback that they need in a timely manner. Something else that we can do, and we talked about this tool in our last webinar, is insert a video note right within. So this allows you to provide more personalized feedback to your learner right away. And in this situation, we have, I've already inserted this video note, and I've added it in, I did it live, but what you could do if you wanted to add a video note in is select that insert stuff option, and then you could go ahead and click add video note, and you would be able to go ahead and start recording your video note right within. I'll just cancel out of there. But if you already had a video note recorded, you could actually add it in from your media library. So again, clicking on that insert stuff button, but this time going to media library. And for example, I've already recorded this level 3 next steps. I can just click on that and add it right into my rubric. So I could record one for each level and then be able to insert that in, and the learners get that right away. Moving on to the bottom area of our rubric here, we have a couple of options in terms of if we want that rubric to be visible to learners. So I have this selected as rubric is visible, so they will be able to see the rubric wherever it's used. You can also choose to hide the rubric from the student, which hides it, and they won't be able to see the feedback either. And then finally, you could select if you want the rubric to be hidden from students until the feedback is published. So that is another option here as well. Whoops. At the bottom is where you can add in your description, which is not going to be visible to students. So that would just be for yourself in order to have that additional information for yourself when you're looking at your rubrics. I'm just going to scroll up here. You'll notice that our status is draft here. We're still working on it, but you could at any time go ahead and change that to a published rubric once you're ready to actually use it in your course. And again, here's that archived option. So I'm just going to keep this as draft, and I'll just go ahead and close. And those changes are actually going to be saved for me right in my rubric area. And I can see that here. So next, I want to just show you what it looks like to actually add a rubric to to an assessment. Since we've created one, what does it actually look like to add one? So let's go ahead and do that. So if I just go into my assignments area, I'm just going to go to edit assignment. And then once you're in your assignment, you'll just go to the evaluation and feedback area, and we can see that we can see a little note here that no rubric has been added. And then we can go ahead and select add rubric. And then from here, if you wanted to actually create a rubric here, you can, but I'm going to select add existing since I've already created it. And then all of my published rubrics are actually going to show up here. So you'll notice that the one we just built is not showing up here because it's in draft mode, but all of the rubrics that I have published are actually going to show up here. So I'll just grab this one just as an example, but now we can see it in line here, and then you can actually see a preview of it as well once you've embedded it within the assessment. If you want to get rid of that rubric, you can just select the X to delete it. And if you had more than one rubric that you wanted to add to an assessment, you can do that as well. So I'm just going to click on delete, and then I'll save and close. So that's how simple it is to just add a rubric to an assessment. And let's look now at how you can actually just really easily assess a rubric for a learner. So I'm going to pop into my quick eval tool. My really handy tool that's going to show me all of the different assessments that require my attention. And if I go into this assignment proposal from Paulina, I'll just select that. And here I can see that I have my rubric here. And if I open it up, I can see all the different criteria here. So what I could do is I could select each one by one if I wanted to. But I wanted to draw your attention to something that's new to the Rubrics tool, which is the option to actually set all to either the highest level of your rubric or the lowest level of your rubric. So this is really handy if you have a lot of rubric criteria to speed up the process. If I know, for example, Paulina here has done an excellent job, I want to set this to set all to excellent. And once I select that, I can see that my ungraded criteria is all set to excellent. And that rubric has already automatically, all of those have been checked for me. So it saves me a bit of time from checking them all off individually. Now, if I did this and I'm thinking, oh, never mind, I don't actually want to give Paulina all excellent, I can just really easily clear those selections. So I can just clear that. And what this is providing for me here is just a reminder that if I added any written feedback, it's not going to clear that. So if you've given written feedback here, it's going to keep that. The clear selections is only going to clear those rubric selections that you've provided. So that's what that prompt is going to give you. And when I say feedback, I'm referring to this area here. So if you had given some feedback here, when you clear selections, that is not going to clear that overall area within the assessment page here. All right, so I'll just click back to Quick Eval. I'm not going to save anything that I did there. And I'm going to hop back over to our deck and we'll talk about the grades tool. All right, so the grades tool provides a whole ton of features that allow you to create and manage a gradebook. So it's a really great way to organize all your graded items and provide learners with insight into how they're doing in the course. So really is a one-stop shop for creating your assessments, recording your feedback, and viewing student progress in a centralized space. It's customizable, so you can set it up according to your learner needs. And we're going to actually walk through a really handy gradebook setup wizard that we have so that you can set up your gradebook exactly how you need it to be. Students have visibility into how they're doing, so they can view their grades and see that feedback to improve and which items that they need to submit still. So it's a really nice student-friendly view. And the gradebook also integrates with other tools. So it synchronizes really well with the assignments, quizzes, and discussions tool. So when you record your marks in those tools, it can actually feed to the gradebook. And then finally, the grades tool offers really great statistics, providing insights into how your class is doing with regards to a particular assessment. So let's jump in and take a look at the grades tool. So again, if the grades tool is not in your navigation bar, you can find it within your course admin area. So first, I'm just going to walk you through by starting at the Enter Grades page. We'll just do sort of a quick overview of what we see here. And then I'm going to walk you through how you could set up your gradebook using the Grade Setup Wizard. So when you land on grades, we're on the Enter Grades page, and what you're going to see is your student names listed in the left-hand column, and then you can also see their final calculated grade first here. So this is calculated by the gradebook. So this is something that cannot be adjusted, but if we scroll over to the right here, what can be adjusted is that final calculated grade. So you can choose to release that final calculated grade, which allows you to use your professional judgment and adjust that learner's grade before you release it. And these little eye indicators show that that final grade is not being released. We also have categories in the gradebook. So just like we can organize our assignments into different categories, we can also use categories within the gradebook. So just point your attention towards the top here. We have this discussions category, and then underneath there, we have specific grade items. So our week 1 discussion, week 2, and week 3. And then we also have, if we go to the right here, we've got a weekly quizzes category. So it lets you organize your gradebook how you'd like within your course. What's really handy here, you might notice this little orange dot here. This is telling me that there's an unread submission. And if I click on it, I can actually go straight to that assessment to start evaluating it. And then finally, the subtotal column, this is showing here the weight of this category within the overall grade. So in this case, the weight of this grade category is 40%. If I go over to this weekly quizzes area as well, if you click on one of these question marks, for example, you can actually view the results in more detail. So let's just take a look at that. So I can actually jump into this completion summary for Paulina specifically, and I can actually filter between different attempts and jump right in to this as well. Also from here, we can actually look at statistics. So if I click the drop down here, I can actually view statistics for this specific grade item. So we can actually dive deeper into seeing how our class performed on this particular quiz, which really gives great insight into next steps to inform your teaching, and also which specific learners might require more support. So in the specific user statistics, I can see for sure that Harrison might need some additional support based on how he performed on this quiz. Let's just head back here. And there was one other grade item that I wanted to show you here, which is this is an assignment proposal. Now, this is not in a category. You can also have grade items that are not in a gradebook category. And this assignment proposal is worth 5% of that overall mark. And so if I click the drop down here, I can jump right into this Enter Grades page. And this gives me a dedicated page for the specific assessment. In this case, it's assignment. So here I have the option to, if I wanted to, provide overall feedback to the entire class. If I wanted to give the same feedback for everybody, I could add something in here. And we see our Brightspace editor again, like we saw just before. But what I can also do from this page is actually really easily add in grades manually here. So this is really handy for if you had an in-person presentation or an in-person assignment where there's actually no online submission and you were grading that learner sort of in person, doing a presentation, you could easily come in here and actually add in those grades. And then you could also add in feedback here as well. If I click this drop down here, oh, we've already opened that up. Perfect. I can close that up if I wanted to hide those details here as well. All right. And the other thing that I want to show you on the enter grades page is this switch to spreadsheet view. So if you click this, you can see that all of our fields have become editable. So this again is also handy if you want to enter grades for multiple grade items at once. I have access to do this really easily here. So for example, I think I have an in-person oral presentation here. I could just simply add in those marks as the learners are actually presenting here. Let's jump over to manage grades. Here is where you can see an overview of really how you've organized your gradebook. So like we just looked before, we noticed that we had a discussions category, we had a weekly quizzes category. So here we can see those are a little bit darker. Little like a shaded color are our categories, and then underneath we actually have those individual grade items. And so when you create a category, you can choose a weight for that category. And then all of the grade items that are within that category are going to contribute to that weight. So for example, discussions is weighted 40%, and our weekly quizzes category is weighted 20%, and so on and so forth. And all of those weights are going to add up to 100%. The next thing that you can do here is choose if you want all the grade items in the category to be manually assigned a weight, or you can actually distribute the weight evenly across all items. So the weights of all the grade items within that category, of course, need to add up to 100. So in this case, for my discussions, I've set these up so that they've all been evenly distributed here across my weight. So if I created another week 4 discussion, for example, it's going to distribute those so that they're all worth 25%. And so how you would set that up is if I go into edit here and I edit this category, this is where I've decided for it to distribute weight evenly across all items. So as soon as I add something else in that category, it's going to automatically do that for me. But if you wanted to assign manually the weight, you can do that here as well. So you have a couple of options for setting that up. Something else I want to note on this page is the type. That is the type of grade item. So depending on the grade item that you create, they can either be graded numerically or based on a grade scheme. So you'll notice that we have a lot of numeric grade items here. So this is basically you would assign a value based on a total number of points for that grade item. There's other types of grade items such as select box, and this is where you would actually choose from a grade scheme level that best matches their achievement. For example, level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 4, for example. And then the max points, that is just what the assessment is out of. So when you have a weighted grade book, like we do in this case, this max points doesn't actually have any effect on the value of that grade item holds out of your total grade calculation. It's just showing the amount of points that you've decided to use to assess that particular grade item. If you did have a points-based grade book set up, then those points would be taken into consideration in terms of the weight of that grade item. So now that you've seen an overview of the Enter Grades page and the Manage Grades page, let's jump over to this Setup Wizard. And this is a 7-step process that allows you to decide how you want to set up your gradebook. And so we'll walk through it together to help you understand some of the settings as you're setting yours up. So since I've set my gradebook up already, it's going to, when I come here, it's going to show me an overview of the settings that I already have set up. But let's go ahead and start this, and I'll walk through each of the steps with you. So the first step is choosing a grading system. So the weighted system is commonly chosen for higher education, and this calculates grade items as a percentage of the final grade's worth, which is out of 100%. You do also have options for points or a formula based. Change. All right. The next step is final grade released. So this setting asks you to consider two things. So the first is, are you going to show learners their final grade as the course is going on? Or would you like to wait to the very end or never? And the second is, if you do decide to release a final grade to learners, which grade do you want them to see? Do you want them to see the calculated final grade, which is the grade that is automatically calculated by the gradebook and it cannot be adjusted? Or would you like them to see the adjusted final grade? So we recommend to use the adjusted final grade because this allows instructors the space to use your professional judgment before releasing the final grade to learners. And then this option here, automatically release final grade. So turning this on is going to cause Brightspace to pay attention to when the final grade, whichever is selected, either calculated or adjusted, is saved, and to automatically release it when that happens. So I'm going to leave this unchecked so that my grades can be released at a set time. So I don't want my learners to actually see their grade until I've decided that at the end of the term or at some point throughout the term, I'd like them to see their mark. And so for adjusted final grade, whenever you go in and generate that manually, they'll be able to see it. And then if you've chosen calculated final grade, whenever that grade value is updated, if you have this automatically release final grade on, it's going to show them that automatically. Next is grade calculations. So this step has to do with how to treat grade items that have not been graded yet. Do you want to include them in the final grade, or do you want to drop those? So let me give you an example to help you decide sort of what would be most appropriate for you. So if you have a course that's made up of 5 quizzes, each quiz is worth 10 points, and the student has completed 1 quiz so far and received 10 out of 10 on that quiz. So if you select drop ungraded item, the current grade is only based on the items that have been graded. So in this case, just the 1 quiz where their learner achieved 100%, so their final grade would be 100%. If you chose treat ungraded items as 0, then the learner would have 20% because the system would put values of 0 in place for those other 4 quizzes that have not been assessed yet. So every grade item is treated as 0 until you've actually inputted a grade value in. So here we have the settings set to drop ungraded items. And then finally, automatically keep final grade updated. We have this selected, and when this is turned on, the final grade will be released whenever it's updated. So this happens at different times. So if you're releasing the calculated final grade, then it's going to be updated based on that automatically keep final grades updated setting. And if you're releasing the final adjusted grade, then it's going to be released whenever the instructor goes in and actually manually updates it. Okay, step 4, choosing your default grading scheme. So the grade scheme is how you want the grade to be displayed. It allows you to organize the learner's performance on grade items into levels of achievement. So this could be numeric values, it could be letters, letter grades, or simply percentage, which is the default and the grade scheme that I have set up here. Grade schemes are typically set up by your institution's Brightspace administrators, and then the instructor would have the option to select a grade scheme from the list that suits their course. So I'm going to keep that default as percentage, but in your institution, you might be using a different type of grade scheme. Next up is managing view display options. So this is the instructor view. So the default that you'll see here is to show 2 decimal places, but you can select how many decimal places you want to see and then select continue. The next is student view display options. So this is what your learners will see. So if you're using a weighted system, it's a good idea to show both the weighted grade, the grade scheme symbol, and the grade scheme color. But if you don't, And then if you don't want to see extra digits on that screen, you can enter 0 here if you'd like, or keep it as 2. And then this is just showing the number of characters that can be displayed for text items. And then finally, the final grade calculation is controlling whether or not learners will actually see a description of how their grade was calculated. So if you select this, it will show up as a little calculator in the learner view next to their final grade, and then the learner can click on it to get a description of how the grade breaks down. So that is that option. I'm going to keep that unchecked and then continue. And we've hit our final step, which is just our summary. So this is just a summary of all your choices, and you can go back and revise anything if you want to. And then at the end, you'll just click on finish. And I can see that I've saved everything successfully, and it's just prompting me to see what I want to do next here on the grades page. All right, let's jump back into to learn more about mastery view. So in grades, there is a second view called mastery view, and this shows individual and class progress against standards or outcomes that have been added to the course. So grades view and mastery are intended to provide different but complementary information about a learner's assessment. So the grades view provides a really holistic evaluation for an overall assessment activity. And what mastery view does is it provides visibility into additional details of learner performance beyond what's available through that traditional grade associated with an activity. And so Mastery View supports assessment by providing a really quick and robust snapshot of learner achievement. And then it also provides evidence-based data points that can be shared with learners. And so just a couple of points in terms of setting up outcomes for using them with Mastery View. The learning outcomes tool needs to be enabled. And so I'll show you a little bit more about how to actually add learning outcomes into your course. But first, at the administrative level, Brightspace administrators would define an achievement scale and set that for the organization. And then from there, instructors would actually select that achievement scale to use in their course offering. And that's what they would use to actually assess those learners related to those learning outcomes. And then secondly, there are the course level outcomes. So you will have to actually import or create those course level outcomes into the outcomes tool at the course offering level. And then you can actually align those outcomes to assignments, discussion topics, rubric criterion rows, which we looked at in our example. And you can also align them to quiz questions or portfolio evidence objects. So let's jump over so I can show you how Mastery View works. So I'll go back to the grades view, and I will see this mastery view toggle, and I'm only going to see this mastery view toggle, this option here, if I have imported learning outcomes into my course and if I've actually aligned them to assessments in my course. So if you've brought in learning outcomes into your course and you're wondering where this mastery view option is, the outcomes actually need to be aligned to something before you're actually going to see this option here. So just an overview of what we're seeing here. So it displays the evaluated outcomes as the columns of the table. So here are all the outcomes at the top here that I have imported into my course and that I've actually aligned to something. And then on the left-hand side, I'm going to see a list of all the learners in my course. Now, if I hover over this particular outcome, convey ideas in writing, I can see this really nice histogram display of learner evaluations related to this outcome, grouped by levels of the achievement scale. So you're seeing this level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. That is the achievement scale that I've chosen and am using in my course. So yours might look different than this. And I can see that I can just get an overall snapshot of, okay, 60% of my learners are achieving level 4 on this outcome, and I've got 40% that are achieving level 3. So this is really helpful. It gives a quick overview of how students are doing in your course across each different outcome that you have. And then underneath that histogram is a suggested level of overall achievement. So for Faith here, she has a level 4 here for this specific outcome of CS2 based on the calculation method. And then the color coding of each cell is actually based on the color assigned to the level of that achievement scale corresponding to the suggested overall level of achievement. This activity counter on the left here means it's going to show the number of evaluated assessments for each learner over the total number of assessments aligned to that outcome. So for example, the CS2, 5 out of 9 activities that have been aligned to this outcome have been assessed. And then any white cells indicate, for example, this LS2. This means that outcomes have been aligned to assessment activities, but there's been no evaluations that have been completed yet. So as soon as that first evaluation is done, that cell is going to display the suggested level of achievement based on those evaluation results. And then here, this I here that's crossed out, these indicate the visibility status to the learner. So if this is published or not published to them. And so this is to be able to decide if you'd want them to see everything. If we did, we could click on this publish all, and then we could publish everything so that the learners could see this. I'm just going to exit out of that so I can go back. Just refresh here. Perfect. And here we can see that these are published now. You can also manually override an achievement level. So if you did want to, manually change this, so just look at Carlos here. This is his overall level of achievement here, level 3. I can actually manually override that. So if I wanted to use my professional judgment here, and I think that he's actually level 4, I can actually make that change if I wanted to. Just while we're here on this page, want to call out what we can see here. So I can see all the different pieces of evidence that have been tied to this specific outcome, convey ideas in writing with regards to how Carlos is doing. So it's a really great overview. I can see every assignment, discussion, or quiz that's been aligned here. And then if I want to, I can actually go in and review further the details on that specific assessment and see how he was assessed on that and the outcomes associated. So it's a really great spot to be able to come to and see how learners are doing with regards to that specific outcome here. When it comes to actually adding those learning outcomes into your course, I'll show you where to do that. So I'm going to go to my course admin. And you're going to find this under Learning Outcomes. Now, this tool, Learning Outcomes, is configurable in your environment. So in your environment, it might say standards, it might say something different. And in the environment that's configured here, it's called Learning Outcomes. So I'm going to go there. And then something to note here too, we had an update that changed some naming conventions in the outcomes tool. So what used to be called programs are now called outcome sets. But I'll just show really quickly, if you wanted to add outcomes into your course, you can actually import them from the Achievement Standards Network, or you can import from an outcome set. Now, these are created by your Brightspace administrators. And if you select this, you can see all of the different options that are available for you. And then you can just go ahead and select them and import those into your course. So if I just wanted this one set here, I could select that and import those, and those are here for me now. And they're ready for me to now align those to assessments within my course. All right. The last tool that we're going to explore is the class progress tool. So I'm going to jump over to that. Now I have the class progress tool in my navigation bar. Again, if you don't have it here, you can find it in your course admin. And so the class progress tool is a really handy dashboard where you are able to see a snapshot of how your learners are progressing and and monitor this throughout your course. So there's 4 different progress indicators that can display at one time. I've chosen these 4 here, but if you want to change them, you have this option to click into settings, and then you can see a descriptor of what you already have here. And if you want to swap something out, you can click on replace and then choose what you'd like to replace that with. So there's lots of different options here for what you'd like to surface on this dashboard here. What's really nice about this class progress tool as well is that if you have a large section, if you have a large class, you can actually filter by section. So if you just wanted to find specific learners, you can click on it and find a specific section here. And you can also use the search option here at the top to just search for a specific learner if you wanted to. Now on the left, we can see all of our learners in the course. And if you hover over their icon here, you can really easily send an email to them or send an instant message. So this is really important because if you come to this page and you notice something that's alarming or a learner needs some intervention quickly, right from this page, you're able to act immediately and reach out to that learner, which is really handy. Another thing I want to point out is that you can jump into even more detail by clicking on this user progress option, and you'll come to the same page by also just clicking on the learner's name. So if I come to this learner progress here, I can see even more granular data, and I can see a really great overview of all these different areas. So for example, grades, I can see all of their grades and the specific feedback that was provided. If I go down to learning outcomes, I can see their progress based on all the different outcomes that have been assessed against in the course or not yet assessed against. So if I jump into Faith here, I can see a nice overview in that trend of all the different times she was assessed and all of that, those specific details here as well. So the class progress tool is a really great tool to monitor your learners as a whole class, but then to be able to drill in and see more details for that specific learner here. All right, I'm going to jump back into our presentation here. And we just skipped over this one to show you it live. And just a quick review of what we covered today, looking at rubrics, how to set up our gradebook and the grade setup wizard, using outcomes for master review, and then monitoring learner needs with class progress. So we'll just jump into a couple of these slides before we move it over to questions. If you're not familiar with our Champions program, we invite you to join it. So it gives you lots of great opportunities to receive points for doing different things, such as attending webinars, submitting a story about how you're using Brightspace. So really do encourage you to check out our Champions program and to become a champion. And then next up, you saw before we talked about our higher education faculty group, really do invite you to first become a member of the community and then join this faculty group so that you can learn more from others that are using Brightspace. And then I just wanted to point you towards some really exciting upcoming webinars that we have in the next couple months. So our next one is going to be about top tools to kick off the term in September. So we're really excited to have you join us for that if you'd like. This is our last slide. And this is just our post-session survey. So if you are open to sharing a couple some feedback with us, we'd love to hear it just to help us improve our future webinars. So you can scan this QR code, or thank you, Victoria, for putting the link in the chat here. We really appreciate you joining us, and hopefully you join us next month, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.